The 2026 NFL Draft Board is starting to take shape, and there's a domino effect happening in the first round that could completely change how the Chicago Bears approach their draft night strategy. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report, your home for the latest breaking news, insider analysis, and the draft coverage that matters most to us Bears fans. I'm here every single day bringing you updates, rumors, and the strategic breakdowns that help you understand exactly where our beloved team is headed. Today I need you to stay locked in, because what's unfolding at pick 20 in this draft cycle has serious implications for what Ryan Poles and the Bears War Room will be dealing with when we're on the clock at pick 25. This isn't just about watching other teams make their selections. This is about understanding how every single choice before us reshapes our options, our strategy, and ultimately our ability to build the roster that can finally bring championship football back to Chicago. Let me set the stage for you. Let me set the stage for the 2026 draft class is absolutely loaded with talent across multiple positions, but there is a clear trend emerging at the top of the board. Teams are getting aggressive about securing premium position players, whether that's quarterbacks, edge rushers, or offensive linemen who can protect those franchise quarterbacks. We're seeing trades, we're seeing bold moves, and we're seeing franchises willing to reach for the players they believe fit their systems perfectly. Now, as Bears fans, we've spent the better part of the last few months analyzing what our biggest needs are heading into this draft. We've talked about edge rusher depth, we've discussed secondary help, and we've absolutely examined whether we need to add more firepower to our receiving corps to give our quarterback the weapons he deserves. But here's the thing about draft strategy that casual fans sometimes miss. It's not just about what you need, it's about what's actually available when you're picking. Right now, sitting at pick 25, the Bears are in an interesting position. We're late enough in the first round that some of the elite, can't-miss prospects will already be off the board, but we're early enough that we should still have access to high-quality starters who can contribute immediately. The projections I've been studying show us taking Romello Height from Texas Tech, an edge rusher with legitimate length and developmental upside who could pair beautifully with our existing defensive front. Height brings that combination of size and athleticism that modern NFL defenses desperately need. And from a pure value standpoint, he represents exactly the kind of pick that smart organizations make in the back half of the first round. But here's where this story gets really interesting, and here's why I need you to pay close attention to what's happening 5 picks before we're on the clock. The Pittsburgh Steelers, picking at number 20, are projected to address their wide receiver position. Now, I know some of you are already thinking, why should Bears fans care about what Pittsburgh does at receiver? That's a fair question, but stick with me because the answer has everything to do with how draft boards fall and how teams start reaching for players when they see their preferred targets getting scooped up. The Steelers have a long, proud history of drafting physical, contested catch specialists at the receiver position. They love guys who can win in tight coverage, who aren't afraid of contact, and who bring that blue-collar mentality that fits their organizational identity. And according to the latest projections, they're zeroing in on a Washington product who fits that mold perfectly. Before I tell you who that player is, let me explain why this matters so much for Chicago. The receiver position in this draft class has some real depth in the middle rounds, but there are only a handful of first-round caliber talents who combine NFL-ready skills with the physical tools that translate immediately at the next level. When a team like Pittsburgh, with their track record of developing receivers, decides to invest a first-round pick at that position, it sends a signal to every other team in the league about how they value that particular prospect. And more importantly, it removes a potential option from the board for teams picking after them, including us. Now, I'm not saying the Bears were necessarily targeting a receiver in the first round, especially with us projected to take an edge rusher. But draft boards are fluid, needs change, opportunities present themselves, and smart general managers always keep their options open. Here's where we get to the heart of the matter. The player Pittsburgh is projected to select at pick 20 is Denzel Boston from Washington. Boston is a 6'2" receiver who thrives in contested catch situations, possesses excellent body control, and brings exactly the kind of physicality that makes him a perfect fit for the Steelers' offensive system. Throughout his college career, Boston has demonstrated the ability to win at the catch point, make plays in traffic, and provide that reliable target that quarterbacks love in crucial third-down situations. His tape shows a player who understands leverage, who uses his frame to shield defenders, and who has enough speed to threaten vertically, even though he's not a burner in the traditional sense. For Pittsburgh, this pick makes tremendous sense. They need to replace aging veteran receivers and find someone who can grow with their quarterback. Boston checks all those boxes. But let's talk about what this means for the Bears sitting at 25. First and foremost, it confirms what we've been seeing throughout this mock draft. Teams are attacking premium positions aggressively, and they're willing to reach slightly for players who fit their specific systems. If Pittsburgh takes Boston at 20, that's one fewer receiver available if the Bears decided they wanted to pivot their strategy. Now, I'm not suggesting we should abandon the edge rusher plan. Height is an excellent prospect who addresses a legitimate need. However, part of being a well-run organization is understanding your options and knowing how the board is falling. With Boston off the table, if the Bears did want to add receiver help in the first round, they'd be looking at a significantly different tier of prospects. That could push them to stay the course with Height, or it could make them more aggressive about trading up if there's a receiver they absolutely love who's still available earlier in the round. The second implication is about value perception. When a team with Pittsburgh's reputation for drafting receivers takes someone in the first round, it validates that player's status as a first-round talent. Other teams start looking at their boards differently, wondering if they missed something in their evaluation. This is particularly relevant for Chicago because we're drafting in a similar range. If multiple teams ahead of us start reaching for receivers, suddenly edge rushers like Height could fall further than expected, potentially giving us even better value at our pick. Conversely, if teams start zigging toward offense, it could create a run on defensive players immediately after, limiting our options if we wanted to explore defensive back or linebacker instead of edge rusher. Let me break down Boston's skill set a bit more so you understand exactly what Pittsburgh is getting and what they'll be taking off the board. Boston averaged over 15 yards per reception in his final college season, caught over 70% of his contested targets, and showed significant improvement in his route running precision year over year. He's not a gadget player or a one-trick pony. He's a complete receiver who can line up outside, work from the slot in certain formations, and contribute immediately on third downs. The comparison I keep seeing is to Pittsburgh's previous successful receiver picks, guys who came in and produced right away because they understood how to get open in the short and intermediate game while also possessing the ability to make explosive plays. That versatility is valuable, and it's exactly what makes Boston a smart first-round investment for a team that knows how to use that archetype. For the Bears, watching Boston come off the board at 20 should make us appreciate even more the value of Height at 25 if he's still available. Here's a player who brings 3-down potential, who can contribute in both base and nickel packages, and who has the physical traits to develop into a legitimate 10-plus sack threat in this league. Height's length allows him to disengage from blockers. His motor is consistently praised by scouts, and his upside is exactly what you want from a late first-round pick. You're getting a high-floor player with legitimate ceiling potential, and if Boston's selection triggers other teams to reach for offensive weapons, we might actually benefit from better defensive talent sliding to our spot. The broader context here is that the 2026 draft represents a critical opportunity for the Bears to add impact talent in the first round. We've done well in recent drafts, we've built a foundation, And now we need to capitalize on our position to grab players who can elevate us from competitive to contenders. Whether that's height at edge rusher or whether the board falls differently and we pivot to another position, the key is being prepared for multiple scenarios. Boston going to Pittsburgh at 20 is just one domino, but it's an important one because it sets the tone for how the next 5 picks might unfold. Teams will react, boards will adjust, and by the time we're on the clock, the landscape could look completely different than what we're projecting today. I want to hear from you, Bears fans, in the comments. Do you think we should stay focused on edge rusher with our first-round pick, or would you be excited to see us potentially trade up if a receiver or cornerback we love is sliding? And specifically, how do you feel about Romello Height as our projected pick at 25? Does he excite you as much as he excites me, or are there other directions you'd prefer to see the organization go? Drop your thoughts below because this community thrives on these discussions, and I genuinely value your perspectives on how we should build this roster. Looking at the complete picture, the Steelers taking Denzel Boston at 20 confirms what we already knew. This draft is going to be competitive, teams are going to be aggressive, and value will be found by those organizations that stay disciplined and stick to their boards. For the Bears, that means trusting our scouting department, understanding our needs, and being ready to execute when our pick comes up. I trust Ryan Poles and this front office to make the right call, and I'm excited about the player we're going to add to this roster regardless of how things shake out ahead of us. If this breakdown gave you a better understanding of how the draft could unfold and what it means for our Chicago Bears, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Bears News Fan Report if you haven't already, because this is where you get the most detailed draft coverage, the most thorough analysis, and the community of passionate Bears fans who live and breathe this team just like you do. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update as we get closer to draft day. Share this video with your fellow Bears fans because these conversations are what make our community special. I'll be back with more draft coverage, more Bears news, and more insights that help you understand exactly where this franchise is heading. Bear down, and let's go get that championship!